Michael Avenatti now joins me on the telephone. Mr. Avenatti, you there?
Yes, I am. How are you?
I'm well. Michael, why wait until 11:30 the morning before the Senate Judiciary Committee is set to hear from this first accuser to drop a bombshell like this?
Well, that's not what happened. We revealed the allegations on Sunday. We conversed with the committee on Sunday. They didn't need to know the name of my client to begin an investigation. We had detailed correspondence that we sent to them on Monday morning, which I have posted and disseminated. They never got back to us. I asked for follow-up on Monday evening. They didn't get back to us Monday evening. They didn't get back to us yesterday. And we finally disclosed the client's name today because we had to take adequate security procedures, make sure they were in place. This is a very serious matter, and ultimately it's the client's determination, not mine or anybody else's for that matter, as to when her identity is revealed. So we disclosed this days ago, and the fact of the matter is that Chairman Grassley, Mr. Davis, the counsel to the committee, Mitch McConnell, and others, they don't want the truth to be known regarding Brett Kavanaugh. There should be an immediate investigation, and there should be no rush to confirm him to the U.S. Supreme Court. This is a search for the truth.
What does your client want to happen immediately?
She wants an FBI investigation to be launched immediately. She is prepared to meet with the FBI, disclose everything that she knows, disclose additional witnesses. Brett Kavanaugh said the other night on Fox that he wants an opportunity to be heard. Well, first of all, he's already had quite the opportunity to be heard. And if there's an FBI investigation, he'll have a further opportunity to be heard. But there should not be a rush to confirm him, and there should be a proper investigation performed by professionals, namely FBI agents.
Is she prepared to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee?
100%, absolutely.
Michael, again, we're all just sifting through the declaration right now. Can you walk our viewers and listeners, can you walk them through specifically what your client is alleging?
Well, again, I'm going to point directly to the language in the declaration, which I think is explicit, but generally my client witnessed, observed, and experienced very aggressive, inappropriate behavior by Brett Kavanaugh and Mark Judge in the early 1980s. Brett Kavanaugh, she is describing as someone that drank excessively, was verbally and physically abusive towards women, also engaged in conduct relating to attempting to get women inebriated, take advantage of women, ultimately put women in positions where they could be gang raped by multiple men or boys, they should say. Now, look, I want to be really clear about something. The allegations in this declaration are shocking. They are also detailed, and my client stands behind them 100%. My client has been issued a number of security clearances by the federal government over the years. She has been fully vetted time and time again, and she is an honest and courageous woman. And I'm going to caution Donald Trump, Brett Kavanaugh, Chairman Grassley, and others. If they try to come after my client or engage in some smear campaign, they better pack a lunch, because we're going to respond twofold. We are going to respond double as it relates to force. So they better be very careful before they start spewing nonsense and trying to call my client a liar.
Has your client confided in others about these claims? Has she talked to a therapist? Has she talked to authorities before this?
There are corroborating witnesses that she is aware of that can support these allegations, and as set forth in the declaration, around the time of the most serious allegation, she confided in at least 2 additional witnesses. So again, we want there to be a deliberative process by which all of these allegations are investigated thoroughly, and then ultimately, once all of the facts are obtained, then and only then should Brett Kavanaugh's nomination be considered. And frankly, I think in light of these allegations, as well as Dr. Ford's, as well as Ms. Ramirez, as well as others, there can be no question that the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh should be immediately withdrawn. There are numerous judges and attorneys in the United States that are capable of serving on our U.S. Supreme Court for life that do not have these type of questions about their backgrounds. And unfortunately, I've got to run, but I appreciate the time.
Michael, really quickly here, because we want to make sure we get this right. First of all, you're pointing out that there are two additional corroborating witnesses. And to be clear, you are not claiming, or your client is not claiming, that Judge Kavanaugh actually engaged in gang rape or anything like that. But your claim is that he was.
No, you're incorrect about that. I'm going to point you directly to the language of the declaration. It is purposeful as it relates to the allegations that my client is making, and I'm not going to characterize those allegations or mischaracterize those allegations. They are black and white, and they are clear as day. And unfortunately, I'm going to run. I apologize.
And approximately, Michael Avenatti, come back when you can, please. Michael Avenatti there, attorney for this third accuser. Mr. Avenatti, pointing to line 13 of this declaration. I'm just going to read this for our viewers and listeners. In approximately 1982, I became the victim of one of these gang or train rapes where Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh were present. Shortly after the incident, I shared what had transpired with at least two other people. During the incident, I was incapacitated without my consent and unable to fight off the boys raping me. I believe I was drugged using Quaaludes or something similar placed in what I was drinking. Michael Avenatti there attempting to explain the timing of some of this, saying that he had an initial conversation with the Senate Judiciary Committee about all of this starting on Sunday evening.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.